Morning, everybody. I'm Kyle, and I'm going to be talking to you today about building bridges between government and elected officials with underserved populations, and specifically those who don't speak English as their first language in my hometown of Fall River, Massachusetts. So, just to do a quick breakdown of Fall River, we have the largest Portuguese American population by percentage in the United States at about 50%. On top of that, about 23% of the residents in Fall River are foreign born. So most of them are from Portugal. And then you look at like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Ireland, Canada. And one stat that I thought was really cool that we're going to focus on for this video is that about 38.5% of Fall River residents speak a language other than English at home as their first language. And when you look at the Massachusetts average, it's about 14 percentage points higher. So it's a substantial difference compared to the Commonwealth average. And then the last stat that I wanted to show off that you can't really see too well here is that only 15.7% of the population of Fall River has a bachelor's degree or higher, and the Massachusetts average is about 45%. So um, Fall River is definitely behind when it comes to that. But skip ahead to the underserved. So when you look at the underserved, for this video, I chose to look at people who don't speak English as their first language. So when you look at the Fall River Housing Authority, of the people that reside in public housing, we have about 3,700 people, and 47% of those are minorities, which is a huge overrepresentation when you look at the way that Fall River is constituted. And 74% make below 30% of the median income in the area. So you see that these minorities are really, really struggling to get by in the city. So what can we do to bridge these gaps? Well, you look at the main languages spoken, right? You look at Portuguese, Spanish, and Khmer, but when you take a look at our mayor, our school committee, and our city council, they only speak in English. So there's no way to translate meetings or speeches, press conferences to these minority populations. When you have a city that's about 38.5% speaks another language at home, it makes it very difficult to connect with that third of the city if you can't speak to them in their language. So um, one thing that I found helpful was that when I was working in the mayor's office, I can speak Portuguese and Spanish. So what I would do is I would try to translate as much of the mayor's press conferences as possible to try and connect with these populations. So, but now we ask, now what? Well, you can ask the question of how can we reach this 38.5% of our residents who do not speak English at home, but also are attending our schools, pay taxes, and vote? I mean, that's a big, big group of our city right there who have a disconnect between the government and themselves. So, what we are trying to do today is building a bridge between this gap to connect both sides. So, came up with 5 strategies of bridge building. And I think that the first and most obvious one would be to have translators on standby for Portuguese, Spanish, Khmer, and Creole. It's because it makes it a lot easier to speak with ESL people. Por ejemplo, cuando hablo en español, or cuando falo aquí en português com os meus amigos ou minha família, it's a lot easier to build trust with somebody and have them hear things that they may not understand to begin with. So, step number 2, shift the target population during campaign season. So typically when we campaign, we look at super voters, people who turn out to every election. But one thing that I'd like to start seeing is targeting low income or minority dominated neighborhoods just to show them that there's an effort there, right? If somebody shows up and tries to talk to them about what their concerns are, it'll definitely ignite an interest amongst the population and show them that you care, which I think would build a significant bond with these groups. Step number 3 would be to host community building events. So when I was the student government president, we tried to do this. We had a Puerto Rican cultural night after Hurricane Maria that I thought was pretty cool. But it was a great way of helping to gain understanding of other cultures and getting to know other people better. So I think if the city sponsored a lot of community building events and invited all these different like nationalities to show off their cultures and show how proud they are, you do a great job of placemaking community building. Step number 4, you want to welcome a positive environment in the schools and across the city. So one thing that we have a lot of in Fall River is ESL classes. And if you invite parents and families to come to the school and see how great of a program we have, and even potentially offer ESL classes to parents to help them learn English as well, do a really good job of showing how strong the school system is trying to become and where they want to be, but also offering an opportunity to parents that don't really have that as readily available to them. And then finally, I think that forming a cultural council with representatives from each of the various nationalities in Fall River do a really good job at ensuring that everybody gets heard and everybody has a seat at the table. So the way I envision it, it's like the mayor and some of the city councilmen and women, and then some of the school committee members, and then just have like one representative from the Portuguese Cultural Society, one from the Dominican, the Puerto Rican, the Irish, the French, and have them all sit at a table and say, you know what, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what we bring to the table, and then just foster a good discussion to see how we can propel the city forward. So these are just 5 steps. I'm sure that there's plenty more that we can take, but I think that building these bridges and connecting the gaps between that 38.5 percentage of our city and the government and the others who speak English will be huge for Fall River going forward, and for cities across the state and the country. So I hope this video was of help, and I hope you have a great day.